Are you tired of wasting your time in dead-end relationships or situationships? Well, today I'm going to be giving you 5 questions that you can ask on the first date to help you get into relationships that are destined to go where you're intending. Be sure to watch until the end so that you can get the number 1 question that you can ask a man that will leave him thinking about you for days. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, then welcome. My name is Kiana Williams and I am a life and relationship coach, and healing happens here. It starts here. I know that a lot of times I'm seeing that when people are going on dates, even when I'm out at restaurants, I see 2 people sitting across from each other. They're not really talking. They're on their phones. Intentional conversation, I think, is hard, and a lot of times we don't necessarily know the questions to ask. We might even know what we want, but we don't exactly know how to vet people. You have these situations where people have been with each other for months or years and they still know very little about the other person. A lot of times when we're not intentional, we're not asking the right questions. We're not really having substantial conversation. And sorry to burst anyone's bubble, but what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? That conversation is dead. It's time to start asking the questions that actually matter, that actually would impact the relationship and the ability for that relationship to be fruitful and to get to where you're trying to go. So I'm super excited. Let's get into the questions. So number 1, what role would you want your husband or wife to play in the household? This is a really good question because it really gets to the bottom of how you see gender roles. What are your expectations? In the last video, I talked about expectations being one of the things that you really need to have an understanding of so that you can be able to vet people, see what things are red flags, have those crucial conversations. And so this is a really good question to start out with because, one, a question that probably could have went before this is, what are you hoping to gain from this relationship? That really should have probably been number 1. If in best case scenario, what would this interaction lead to? That probably should have been number 1. But regardless, the first question still is, what role would you want your husband or wife to play within the household? So that can range from a variety of different things. Are you expecting your husband to be the breadwinner? What roles or tasks within the household would you expect your husband to fulfill versus as your wife? What do you expect from her? What portion of the bills are you wanting and willing to pay? What happens when decisions need to be made? Who disciplines the children? All of those different things are going to start to come into play within this conversation. And if you are drawing blanks, and I encourage you to use some of those things as different examples if you need to get the conversation going. So number 2, what traditions from your childhood would you want your future family to adopt? I love this question because it gives you an opportunity to really dive into what were some of those traditions that you cherished as a child, what were potentially some traditions that you didn't like as a child and wouldn't want to continue, and then it helps you start to think about the future. So if you had a family together, what things would you do together? That might be holidays, it could be maybe Sunday dinners, it could be birthday celebrations or family vacations. It could just be a lot of different things depending on what your childhood looked like. But this is a really great question to dig deep into that person's childhood, as well as to start to think, okay, what would building a life look like with you? Number 3. What does intimacy mean to you? There are a lot of different ways that someone could answer this. Now, if you look it up, there's a pyramid that talks about the different levels of intimacy. I will put it right here. But for everybody, the answer might be different. A better question might also be, in addition to this, which factor of intimacy resonates most with you or is most important to you? There are a lot of people who value sex as being very high, and then there's people who really don't value sex as being super high. That is a form of intimacy, as well as like shared goals and things like that. The pyramid is here. But you have to really ask, and I encourage you to screenshot the pyramid, and that's something that you can use as a part of that conversation because it's good to know where the other person is at. A lot of times we talk about love languages and, you know, how you like to receive love as well as how you give love and different things like that so that the other person can feel appreciated and valued and all of those important things. But what does intimacy mean to you? And then once you understand that, making an effort to incorporate different levels of intimacy, because it's not just about sex. it's about having some of these meaningful conversations and about working towards different goals together and different things like that. So I love that question. Okay, number 4. What are some character traits that you wish you had? This question is going to reveal a lot, and you want the person to give substantial things, and it's character traits, not physical attributes, not goals that you want to accomplish, but character traits. Character traits are really important because for the most part, character doesn't change as frequently as emotions do or as habits might. In understanding what character traits they wish they had, 1, you understand what character traits they are lacking, and then 2, it lets you see, okay, if this person is saying they wish they were more patient, or they wish they were more honest, they had better integrity, that is something that you need to pay attention to, because you have to acknowledge then that means that this person, they tend to lie, or they tend to be deceitful. So that's a good question to ask, just because it helps you understand more about the things that actually matter. Matrix? No. All right, the final question, number 5, that'll help you master the first date is, what are your priorities in this season of your life? And I love to ask this question even as a check-in thing. This is not just a first date question. This is something that you can be asking throughout the relationship, just as a temperature check to make sure that you're on the same page. If this person says that in this season, their main and sole priority is work and advancement within their career, and they make no mention about family, about relationship, about getting married, any of those things, but your priority in this season is marriage, having kids, and all these different things, y'all might not be compatible. And that's why this is a great question to ask early on, as well as to continue asking throughout the relationship, because you want to make sure that you're equally yoked. You want to make sure that you guys have the same outlook for where this is going, and asking someone what their priorities are. Don't lead them, don't give examples, say, what are your priorities in this season of your life? And I say season of your life because things change. As you change, your priorities change. As new events occur, that often shifts your outlook. And so ask the question, see what they say, and just leave it at that. Don't try to convince them or probe them to change their answer, and then move accordingly. All right, so I hinted at this in the beginning. The number 1 question that you can ask a man that will leave him thinking about you for days is this: what are ways that people or partners have not shown up for you in the past that I can make an effort to show up for you now? I know. It's a great question because 9 times out of 10, no one has ever asked that question before. And it separates you. Let me tell you something that I know for sure. Intelligent men love good conversation. And I'm not saying that he's going to have an answer for this question. He may not. Sometimes vulnerability is difficult for men. He may not have an answer, but especially if he does not have an answer, it will not leave his brain until he comes up with an answer. And it's going to make him reflect, and days, hours, weeks following this conversation, he's going to be thinking about this, and alongside that, he will be thinking about you. So I want you to ask this question, even if it's, I say these are first date questions to master the first date, but like I said, a lot of us have come into relationships not asking the right questions, and so you may have been in a relationship for a year or 2 years and be like, I need to ask these questions because I don't know the answer to these questions, and I've been with this person for a while. So I encourage you, ask the questions. I want you to go and leave a comment once you ask these questions and let me know how it went with that conversation. And if any of you guys use these to master the first date, let me know how that went. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this within the relationship series, then I encourage you to make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you watch the playlist. I have some really great videos that are going to be continuing to come out about different topics like this. If you didn't see last week's video or the last video that was posted, make sure that you go check that out, and I will see you guys next time. Happy dating!